Well, hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for another installation of InFocus Applied. This is our webinar for learning. We've got an exciting topic to talk about today. I know you are all probably here for this and excited to hear about it. Our InFocus 2019 1.0 release that is due out this week. There is no way that I can put into words the amount of care and effort that has gone into this release. We are so excited to get it out to you, and we are happy to talk you through some of the highlight features in the release on the webinar this afternoon. So my name is Lucas Hayden. I lead client services for Clearview. And with me is Jason Bivens, who leads product. And just by quick way of introduction, Jason, we were talking before the webinar and talking about the things that were driving this release, some of the ease of use, areas of ease of use, some of the ways that we can make InFocus more accessible for our end users. And can you just kind of give us a little bit of a feel for some of the other things that drove the features that were in this release?
Yeah, well, just first of all, I just wanted to say, hey, everybody out there. It says 101, but I know there's a lot more than 101 people in the group here. So just welcome, and I just wanted to also just go along with Lucas and the excitement that we have in this that we're finally getting out this 2019 release. It's just full of exciting features. We've talked about it through these webinars that we've been putting out there through the year, and just different Mavericks conferences, and just there's been a lot of buzz about this release. So we're excited to finally get it out. Yeah. What went into this release was a ton, but like Lucas said, the major components of this are we wanted to improve the ease of use. So we've built a whole new applet called Approvers, which I'm going to demo to you in a few minutes. It's going to help your time and expense approver have one home to approve. So if you're an approver out there, this is going to be exciting for you. We've beefed up our work orders, taking them to a whole other level, which, this side note, work orders is my favorite addition in this release. Additionally, mobility. Over the years, we've had a lot of questions of web access, and I know we've had a mobile component over the years, but actually a time and expense, experience on the web that you can access through a tablet, through your phone. And just any device like that, we've added that, and also the ability to view analytic dashboards. So that's exciting. And then just streamlining communication. I know this year, there's Pam Ingram, one of our consultants. She's talked a lot about flows. We've incorporated a new feature called messaging, which Lucas is going to walk through in a little bit. So there's just a ton of stuff. Hopefully we have enough time today to talk about it. We look forward to your questions. So just, and we'll do our best. Like I said, there's a bunch of people in this. So if we don't get to your question, I'll follow up with you after this meeting, in the days to come, with a response. But thanks again for being here. We're excited to walk through this with you.
That's great. So it sounds like, there's really something in this release for every user. With the new web timed, everyone who puts in timesheets, could benefit from something like InFocus Web. Approver level folks with the Approver applet, which will go through messaging for better communication, and some other bells and whistles as well. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in here. And if you've read our release notes, we're going to kind of handle these items in the order in which they appear on the release notes. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen share over here, and we are going to talk through InFocus Web. So as you might be able to tell here, this is a Safari browser. I run a Mac. I'm on a MacBook Pro right now, and this is an InFocus timesheet right here in the web. So this is for your Safari, your Chrome, so on and so forth. This is your timesheet in the web. And the great thing about this is not only can you come out here and leverage this technology here in the browser, but if I were on a mobile device, we also have released this in such a way that you can use it on your iPhone or your Samsung Galaxy or what have you, or your iPad. This is a cross-platform way to use InFocus, and we're coming out of the box with time, and as Jason mentioned earlier, analytic dashboards. And so we are super jazzed to get this out to you. So let me just kind of talk you through the lay of the land, what you're seeing here for web. Obviously, on the top menu, you've got your options for timesheets and dashboards. I'll show you dashboards in just a second. We've got a couple other pieces of information that you can take advantage of here. But then in your timesheet, you simply select your timesheet. And we've built these new cards for entering time. And these work great. You can collapse the view or expand it. If you are on your iPhone or your iPad, you could be swiping down through these cards to put in your timesheet. And it's pretty simple. You just kind of press and play here, and you'll notice that as I enter my time, the bar graph at the top gives me a immediate picture of my time as I put it in. So this is a super slick feature, just really helpful for seeing just the general spread of my time. I could see my overtime displayed on this chart here as well. And this is just a really nice way to put in time. To add a new row, I'm just going to click Add Project. I'll be able to search my projects here and go ahead and start entering my time. So really, really nice interface to come in here and do your timesheet entry. So a couple other things that you can do from InFocus Web is you can actually run your reports and actions. So Web comes out of the box with support for custom reports and actions. And if Jason mentioned at the head of the call, you've heard us talk about flows. Flows are a new class of actions that are consumed here in the web, and they walk you down through simple dialogues for doing things like creating a new client in InFocus. And it will walk your users down just a very simple interface to do some of your normal work right here through the web portal. So this is going to be a really great addition here with InFocus Web. As I mentioned before, you can also consume your analytic dashboards in web. So from the top menu, if I go to dashboards, I'll save my changes here. As you can see loading in on the screen, this is our revenue forecasting dashboard that you can get from our marketplace, but here it is in the web browser. And what's great about this is, again, this is cross-platform, so I could view it here in my web browser. I could pull this up on my mobile device and see all of the great benefits and features here. We've been using InFocus Web internally here for the past several months, and this feature has been great to be able to just pull up key analytics right on my phone. You can focus in on these charts, things like that, and it just creates a great experience for viewing your analytic dashboards really wherever your work takes you. So in a nutshell, yeah, so excited to mention, I think that's our key word for today is excited to share with you InFocus Web and the features that it offers. So it's timesheets and dashboards, and we're so glad to share that with you today as part of our release. So as Jason mentioned at the head of the call, one of the things that we talked about was improving the experience for the approval layer in the system. And what Jason is going to show you here in just a minute is our new approver applet. We've been using this, and I can say, Jay, that this is probably one of my favorite features in the software. This is just so nice for approving time and expense. We think it'll really streamline the way that you're doing that. And so if you give me just a second here to pass this over to Jason, he will go ahead and tell you a little bit more about it. So Jay, I'm going to make you the presenter.
Okay. All right. And as Lucas is sharing or passing control to me, just real quick, there's been a couple of people who are saying that they weren't hearing us. If you have any type of issue you will get a link to this recording afterwards. So don't worry. Or if you came in late and you missed the beginning portion, a link to this will be sent out, in the days to come. So don't worry there. Yes. Are we? Okay. We're good. All right. So as Lucas, was mentioning, we added this the approvals applet. In the past we've had the ability to approve time and expense in a couple different places. The timesheets applet and the approvers applet, and even we have some widgets that are available out there that have given you the functionality to approve. But we were talking. We've talked to some clients. We looked at the ideas page that's out there on our support. And, we found that, we just needed to have a more centralized location where people could approve their timesheets and expense sheets. So what you're seeing here is the new expense approver, or the new approvers applet. It's located under personal, and it's going to be called approver. You will be able to see this through the permit, granting the appropriate permissions. And there are a number of different permissions that are available to give you different, abilities, like pushing through timesheets and expense sheets. And I'll get to that in just a moment. But just to kind of show you what you're seeing here, this is the approvers applet as you come in. So just to kind of walk you through what you're seeing here, in my list here right in front of me is the approver, or the timesheets that are ready to approve for all the individuals that I am an approver for. So if you look over on the left here, we have some different toggle buttons here that will walk you through the type of approver. So if you're familiar with our setup in InFocus, if you go to the employees file and you look at who your approver is, you have an approver, you have an alternate approver, you have additional approvers. And those may be somebody you might designate to approve temporarily. You have the ability to filter by timesheets where you're one of those types of improver, or you can just filter to all of the employees that you would be an approver for. Additionally, you can bring in unsubmitted, you can see you're rejected, you can see all the different statuses here, and you can also filter by what we're calling a since date. So I want to see all the timesheets that are out there since this date, since July 1st in this scenario. You have the ability to select multiples here, and you can submit them. You can approve them. You can reject them. It's all the same functionality you had when you were if you were using the Gridget, or if you were using the applet to do that. But it's all in one place here. An addition we have is a documents button here. So if you attach documents to an expense, you have the ability to view them here. There are none connected to this, but I could look at documents that were associated with this expense here. And also, just to point it out while I'm talking about expenses, we did add the ability to add a document to a line in an expense instead of just the whole expense. Just one little side note that wasn't even on my notes to talk about there. So this is the timesheet experience. As I click on it, over on the right, you'll see the detail for that expense. So if you want to see what's going on the particular expense sheet, it's over there for you to see. And you can just kind of go through and approve these easily here. The other side of that, the expenses, it's pretty much the same experience. If you're an approver, alternate, and so forth, you can do the same here and push those things through, and you can just walk through and look over on the right, see what's in it, and approve or reject whatever you see fit. That's the first part of the approvers applet. The second part is we actually added the ability to line item approve. We'd had that request a number of times through the ideas page. So in global settings, we added, it's a simple setup, nothing crazy here. If you're on the time and expense tab, over on the right here, we have two locations where you can turn on line item approval for both time and expenses, and we also have a default status. The approval is driven by a setup in the project. Just to kind of give you a quick glance on the members tab, you say whether you want that to be turned on or off per project. But it's, so that drives the line item approval. Once you turn those two things, so if you see in this demo that I'm on, I have them turned on. So let me go back to my approvers applet. If it's turned off, you're only going to see timesheet and expense sheets here. But with those line item approval options turned on, you see I have a timesheet a lines option, and then an expense sheet where I can see on a, you still have the high level timesheet here, but now down here I can actually approve individual lines to that timesheet. And then the same goes for the expense sheet. Just a little bit different here. We do have the ability for, I've heard in the past, companies will want the PM approving their particular timesheets for their projects, or a principal or PA. You can filter this list if, by projects where the logged in user is the PM. So if I click this, I'm only going to see timesheets where I'm an actual project manager. So I can approve them and I can reject them on a line by line basis. And I just wanted to kind of show you what that looks like. If we go to a timesheet, you'll see here I have a couple of timesheets, or I have a timesheet that is in a state of pending. And then, if I go back here to another timesheet, you could be in a state where, these two projects here, we're not using line item approval on it, so they're not even, they don't even have a status. So you can use it in kind of a mixed mode. You can say, I want to approve on these specific projects, but not others. So that's kind of the line item approval in a nutshell. And just to show you the expense piece of that, you can do the same over here on the expenses with the same project leader filters. So. Awesome. So that's the Approvers app in a nutshell. And like Lucas said, we've been using this actually for a while now. It's greatly made our time and expense approval much more efficient and kind of easy to walk through. So we're excited to release it to you guys and let you guys experience the same thing.
That's great, Jason. I'm going to take presentership back over now, and I want to walk you through one of the new features that will be really helpful for improving communication throughout your projects and your processes right here from InFocus. We are releasing with 2019 a new applet found under Utilities called the Messages Manager. And what Messages Manager will allow you to do is manage messages that can be sent from InFocus, like an email, like you see here on the screen. You can configure your emails. We support, nice marked up emails that can be sent out. And, what are the kinds of things that you can send with messages? Well, you could send, for instance, an insights email, like new projects added this week, like you see here. You could send, the CFO could receive the P&L report in their inbox every Monday morning, or what have you. As you might remember from InFocus 2018, we have a suite of events that can be tracked in the software, and messages can be sent on any of those events. So that could be things like, if Jason submits his timesheet, he could receive an email to confirm that it was submitted, or his approver could receive an email that his time had been submitted and is ready for approval. Lots of ways to help just share items from the software with the employees that need to know. And the great thing is that messages can be configured to send only to certain individuals, so you can have a lot of control over how that, how your communication plan is deployed. So in a nutshell, Messages Manager allows you to send an email from the system. It can be triggered by an event in the software. There's lots of great possibilities like the one that you see here. And with that being said, another one of our flagship items that I'll hand back over here to Jay in a moment is our new work order screen. And this is another example of ways that you can improve the accessibility of your software, ways that you can control things like time entry and things like that, and make it much easier for your employees when they're putting in time. And it also makes it easier as well for the managers managing that time. So Jay, I'm going to pass the presentership back to you and ask you to take us through the new work orders.
All right, you can pass me back to Mike. All right. Well, as I mentioned earlier, probably the feature that I was the most excited to get into this release is work orders. And I wish I could do a show of hands on how many people actually have looked at, tried using our work orders in the past, or maybe attempted and then decided not to. But I will encourage you, if you have or have not, revisit. When you upgrade, go to the work orders applet and give it a whirl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through some of the changes. So the first thing is the work orders applet, if you aren't familiar or don't have permission, is located under project management work orders. And the work order is basically that, just it's a detailed item of work. So if you see here, I have a list of work orders. This is similar to the grid that we had before, but there's a lot more functionality that we've baked in. So just to show you one individual work order, I have one, for example, here called fill out paperwork. So it's something detailed. So with every work order, you'll have a summary and then you'll have a description. With this, we also have, you can put a lot of other metadata. Some of the most important metadata out there is you can associate a project with it, an employee, a job title, even a bill status with a work order. And what that does is probably the biggest bang for your buck that you get out of using work orders is the ability to help with time entry. So if any of you have ever had a problem with an employee accidentally entering time at the wrong node of a project, which I'm sure probably none of you have, but we have in-house here had people that have entered time against the wrong node, and you wish you had a way to control that. Work orders is the way to do it. So with all this information that I've entered here on this project, so I have admin, I have my employee, my engineer, and so forth. There is a time tab on a work order where you can see here, you can see time that has actually been entered against this work order. And if I'm an employee and I put in my time, I put the hours on here and I hit add, that actually inserts a record onto the timesheet. So you could, in essence, you could create a bunch of work orders, especially if there's tasks that an employee uses or is doing often. You could create a work order and then just have them use the work order to enter their time, or they may never actually go over to the timesheet applet. A couple other things. So each of these, so I have my fill out paperwork, I have my work assignment, I have all these different work orders that I have for me in this database. A couple other things, each work order has a ton of other information that can be stored with it. And just to kind of briefly walk you through the tabs here, there's a chat at the bottom here, or that's on this. I'm moving this little question thing. There's a chat window here where we have a concept now of you can have a team associated with a process, which I'll talk about in a moment. But on a team, you can have multiple individuals working on a specific work order. So in the case of this chat, anybody on the team that has access to this work order can make a comment on the chat, and you can have your own conversation in the context of this chat window and this work order. Another feature that we've added to work orders are to-dos. So it's real simple. It's basically, you could create punch lists. For example, I have get paperwork in my fill out paperwork. I created these little items that I want to just have for my to-dos on this work order, and I can just complete them. So I can knock that off, and knock that off, and then I've completed these items for myself. So it's a little punch list of things that you might want to have associated with this work order. A third item is our tags, and tags are important things that you might want to tag your work orders with. They're a user definable list, and they're established on the process as well, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. I already described the timesheet, which is the most valuable part of work orders, in my opinion. We've also opened up documents to this, so you could have documents associated with a specific work order. And then you can have subscribers, which might be people who aren't in the team but might want to be part of the conversation. So we added that tab. And then our little history tab that will give you a little description of all of these work orders as they pass through stages, which is another part of processes, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment. But before I go to the processes piece of this, let me just kind of point to a couple other things on this screen here. On the work orders, we've added the ability when you get, we've opened up header filters here. So in the past, it's hard to filter out down to a specific work order for whatever you're looking for. We've opened up the headers so you can filter there. We've added some other quick filters here so that you can dwindle the list down quickly there. And we've added a text search, which will search all of the work orders for specific lines of text. So we've added a bunch of different features here that will allow you to just find a historical work order quickly. So that's work orders, but another huge thing that we've added to work orders is the concept of a process. So we've created a process templates applet. And if any of you were in the Mavericks conference in Denver, where I was there, I did a little presentation on this, and I was showing the concept of putting these work orders in stages, or a Kanban, if you're familiar with that, or a Scrum. That's what this is. So let me go over to the process templates applet real quick. That's also located under project management. So basically what this is where you can establish your own process, and the process might be stages that you go through. For example, I'm showing you one here that's to do, doing, done. We use this in our development, team, with our development team, and we have a process that goes from like backlog to in development to being QA to complete or failed, all the way down to done. You can create here, a process as long as you want. I do recommend keeping it kind of short and sweet, but it's, we know how these go. Sometimes there are processes that have multiple layers in it. So we have the concept of you can create stages. You can set a default owner. So if you see here, once a work order is created, it's going to default to the owner, the person who created it. But then you may want this to change hands when it goes through these stages. So if something's in a to-do state, and when I move it to my next stage, I might want to pick a team member. I might want it to go to somebody who's a project role, or there's a number of different things here. And just to point out, you don't have to be jotting all this down. We've documented it. This will be available in the manual. And Lucas and I went through there and added all this stuff to our manual. And so there's going to be an explanation for all this stuff, so you don't have to be taking really hard notes on this. And then there are some other features that I won't go into each and every one. Some other things that you can have happen as these things go through the stages. Autocomplete, auto open, auto close. You can use events. You can even use messages. One example that we use as far as the messages go, and messages is what Lucas was talking about a little while ago, is we do a lot in-house with Slack. So what we do is when we take a work order from one stage to another, the owner of that work order will get a Slack message saying, hey, you've been handed this work order. So there's a bunch of neat stuff that you can do with these, but that's kind of the idea there with messages and extending your system. You have the ability in a process so in this sprint process, you can set a role. So you might want to set an admin role, similar to permissions, where you want to have a person that can do everything, but you may want to have a staff level or some other levels of security on these work orders or in this process that have less access than maybe your admin person. And tags. So tags, earlier when I showed you the tags, that were associated with the work orders, this is where you would build your list of tags. So in this sprint, I may have a list of 6 different tags, and those might be 6 common things that I want to classify these by. When I'm dealing with this process, in each process, so I might have a sprint process, and then I might have a Kanban process, or I might have a development process that has different tags. Additionally, there are custom fields. You know us, if you've been in our system, we have a boatload of custom fields available, user-defined fields and so forth. The same goes for our work orders. We added a custom tab there. And then finally, we have our create permissions that you can assign to different folks as well. Depending on what level that you want them to have, as far as editability. So those are the different things that you set up when you're building a process, and you can have numerous processes. We have a bunch, but what does that get you? So we built a process with this to do, doing, done. What does that look like? So let's bounce back over to our work orders, and I was hiding it from you, but over on the left here, if I open it up, we have this processes window. So just to kind of show you, you have, when you're building work orders that don't have a process, they're called unattached. That's what we call unattached. So you can see a list of unattached work orders, and I don't have any in this database. But let's go back to my sprints. So if I'm going to choose a process type of sprint. So now the concept is I built that process type of sprint, but within it, I might have sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4. So you want to build, you're going to have iterations of those. So when you come in here for the first time and you've built out your process, on the toolbar, you're going to create a new sprint. So then that creates one of these. What you see over here on the list, it creates you one of these, and this is when you're actively using it. So so what you're seeing here is I have my Kanban sprint, and then over on the right, I have 3 different work orders that I have associated with this sprint. And I can continue, I can hit new, and I can add, I wish I could show you my personal sprints that we use, but we have hundreds of work orders over here. So, you have these, the sprints, in this case, are these process instances that have work orders. Now, how that ties into it, the cool thing is what this card view here. So going all the way to the Kanban, if you've ever done Kanban, there's, in its purest form, it's like Post-it notes on a board where you're moving one Post-it note from one square to the next, or to the next. So if I click on the card view, here's our Kanban. So I have my cards here that I can move from one column to the next. If I want to see in there, I can double click and I can look at my work order here, see all the metadata that I showed to you earlier. But they're here to, then you can, it becomes a functional thing. You may have your employees come in, they see their to-dos here, they work on them. You move your work order to the middle column, which would be your in process, and then you move it to the done column when it's complete. So there's we have our Mavericks conference out there. I think we have some video stuff that talks a little bit about the Kanban. We're going to have some documentation, and there will be more content to come on walking through building these things and using our work orders and processes in the future. But that's it in a pretty big nutshell.
Oh, that's great, Jason. And I know you kind of said it, but I mean, the work order system has really revolutionized some of the way that we even do work here internally. And so we look forward to all of you all taking advantage of that as well. One other quick bell and whistle that we wanted to show you is that we have also given our UDFs an important upgrade. And whereas up to this version, we've always supported various types of UDFs, which have been helpful, we are now supporting UDF grids, which is going to be a great feature for tracking things like licenses, certifications, education and training is another great example, where you can have an actual grid that lives right here on a tab, for instance, in your employees applet. And so UDF grids is a big update to our UDF suite, UDF being user definable fields. And so we wanted to point that out as well. So as you can see, you've got an interactive grid here that you can just tab through and add additional information for instance, an employee here in this screen. This is just a quick example of a quickly expiring license to save the employee. So that being said, Jay, that kind of brings us to the end of our presentation for this afternoon. Like we've kind of said by way of summary, we have tried to release something for every user, every employee using InFocus, whether it be InFocus Web with timesheets and dashboards, or the Approver applet for those of you who are involved with approvals. Cannot say enough good things about the Approver applet, be it work orders, or some of the continuity items and communication items like messages or UDF grids. We do hope that you'll find something to help further streamline your processes and help your businesses run better. So for more information, obviously this webinar will be available online. Once we finish and get that posted up. But another place that you can find out more information about these items is in our release notes, and those are available in the Help Center. And you can come out to the Help Center, read through those, and we've also got notes down at the bottom here regarding how to upgrade, the release schedule, and things like that. So that being said, that kind of brings us to a close. Before we pause for a few questions, you've probably heard us say a couple things today, that you might want to try out. And as we do on all of our InFocus Applied webinars, we do like to point out that there are a couple of different options that can be helpful for running InFocus for your firm. And one of those things is an InFocus sandbox. We had a great question come through during the webinar today. Is it possible for me to, see this in a test environment, that kind of thing? While InFocus Cloud will be upgraded this weekend, if you are self-hosting the system, you can certainly work with your IT to deploy a sandbox and test out some of the features. So that's definitely an option for you. But if you are on InFocus Cloud, an InFocus sandbox is a great way to, once you get the features in the upgrade, you can test them out in your sandbox, that kind of thing. And that is an opt-into item that you can do through the through Clearview support. You can just go to your account and billing area and turn on sandbox. That's a great feature to take advantage of. And as always, we mentioned too, if you're not on InFocus Cloud, that is now is a great time to think about moving to the cloud. We offer a really streamlined switch from self-hosted to cloud. And if you're interested in pursuing that, you can definitely reach out to us via the survey at the end of this webinar. We'd be happy to help get you up and going in the cloud. Obviously, one of the benefits is that with releases like this, they are just simply deployed for you. You don't really have to do much thought about it. And just makes upgrading and keeping on all the cutting edge features and technology makes it easy to stay up to date on all those things. So that being said, take a look at Sandbox, take a look at Cloud. We're so thankful that you all took time out of your day to join us this afternoon. And as we talked through the different items, we hope that your light bulbs went off and saw something that would help your firm do business better. And again, streamline your processes and just improve the usability of InFocus.